resting today, yeah. Good morning, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. To everyone in the room and all of you at home that have perhaps gotten some breakfast in bed this morning and had just decided to turn us on and invite us in. Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day. It's cold out there today, isn't it? But warm in here. And we're about to make it a little bit warmer by standing up and greeting each other and telling someone, Happy Valentine's Day.
The reading for today is by Dr. Ernest Holmes, and it is called Unity and Multiplicity. The stuff out of our human bodies are made is the same esoteric substance from which all things are made. The one mind conceives all things through one law, which is the medium of all action. Multiplicity is manifested, but the many never contradict the unity of the whole. When we realize that we are dealing with an infinite intelligence, with an infinite law within this intelligence, we see that no limit should be placed upon the creative principle. Could we understand absolute causation, we should perceive it to be pure intelligence, operating through perfect law and producing effects which live and have their being, not by virtue of an isolated life, but by the reason of a universal unity which permeates all things. We should then see the world of multiplicity is deeply rooted in a universe of unity.
I first heard about this place, this little lump of clay, on a message board in space, about 1 billion stars away. The ad read floating garden orb, circling the sun. Help us build a heaven here, we need one more volunteer. So I said that I would come. I was asked when I applied to name some service I could bring, and I think service should be joyous. So I said that I would sing. Had I somehow missed a turn? Was this even the right place? Had I fallen for a scam, or was it more a fall from grace? 'Cause oh, it's beautiful, alright. And how I love the desert sky, and a quiet mountain lake. Well, it's enough to make me cry. But I did not come prepared for the density or strife, for the cruel and inhumane injustices and pain that can pass here for a life. So from a very early age, I grew restless here because of this longing to go home. No, I could not say where home was. And then in answer to my prayer, or more truthfully my screams, my beloved self appeared, come to wake me from this dream, and with diamond voice declared, home is not some distant star, or some heavenly reward that your days are marching toward, but the truth of who you are. An awareness so immense, it holds all of this inside. As she spoke, my mind fell still, but my tears would not subside. And from the arms of grace I knew that all suffering could cease if we could yield to this embrace, if we just trusted in this peace. To even try to find the words can be a sacrilegious thing, so I'd just as soon be silent. But I said that I would sing.
Kirtana would be proud. I love that song, and I think it's absolutely perfect for Karen to sing, yes? Yes. And I think it also speaks to what I was talking about last week, that we each have a gift that we are here to share. And that gift is important and it's significant, and that we step into our spiritual magnificence when we allow that gift to be expressed through us. So thank you, Karen, for expressing that gift. Today my talk title is Through the Prism of God's Love. And the spiritual principle from Ernest Holmes' What We Believe statements for today, February 14th, Valentine's Day, is that we see a world in which unity with God and connection with each other is emphasized. Now, I believe that this idea about a prism demonstrates this connection with God and with each other. When light passes through a prism, the light is bent. Now, as a result, the different colors that make up white light become separated. Upon passing through this prism, the white light is separated into its component colors: red, orange, yellow, blue, green, and violet. The separation of visible light into these different colors is called dispersion. And this happens because each color has its own particular wavelength, and each wavelength bends in a little bit different angle. The really interesting thing about the colors that our eyes see is that each color is determined by what it absorbs or what it reflects. So for example, an object to look black, that object is absorbing all of the colors of the full spectrum. Whereas an object that looks white is reflecting all of the colors of the spectrum. And in that same vein, then, a blue object is absorbing all of the colors except blue, which it is reflecting. Got it? Yeah, kind of interesting, huh? You didn't know I was going to be Miss Science up here today, did you? Oh, you should have seen me on Wednesday. I had a whole experiment going. And it kind of worked. So let's take this idea one step deeper. In the Bible, John 1, verse 15, it says, God is light. So that means that God and light are synonymous. Now here we believe that God and love are also synonymous, that God is the very essence of love itself. We also believe that we were created by God out of God itself, out of love itself. And so what I envisioned when I thought about this idea of through the prism of God's love was that this light, this love that is the very presence of God itself, was dispersing itself into a wide spectrum of manifestations. And that each manifestation is a different aspect of the spectrum. Each manifestation reflects the individualized aspect of God out into the world. Yes? Each manifestation appears as separate, but the truth is that each is simply an aspect of the whole of God. Unique and individualized, yet united together as the whole of God. Each one with a capacity to reflect what they came here to reflect and to allow the light of God to shine through and as them. Each and every manifestation appearing separate but united as one. Now, Reverend Marcia Sutton and Reverend Lloyd Strom, in their work From Fear to Faith, talk about this spectrum of light. And they say that every color has an esoteric meaning. And I think that when we take each of these meanings together, that it could be a roadmap for us to use to step into our spiritual magnificence. So it's my intention today to share with you some of their work. They say that their teaching is built around the secrets of life. The secrets of life that are revealed by this full spectrum of light that operates on every level of our being. They call the many facets of the light and the colors that are revealed the cosmic mandala. Cool name, huh? Cosmic mandala. And they say that all we need to know about life is revealed to us by light. And I'm going to reveal it to you today. That's the good news. And not just the physical light that comes from the sun, which lights up the darkness so that we can see, but the light of understanding that illuminates our souls. So white is the sum of all colors. And we can see this as that light shines through the prism, that those colors reveal themselves. So white contains all colors and yet is different than its parts. It's different than the parts of it. It represents the wholeness of life, the wholeness of God. Now on the flip side of this, black is the absence of color. Reverend Marcia and Reverend Lloyd say the darkness defines the light and gives it meaning. Also, the darkness holds all that has yet to come to light in our lives. Holds all that has yet to come to light in our lives. And in this sense, the darkness does not hide our good from us, but holds it for us. Isn't that a nice thought? It holds it for us. Black represents the mystery of God. Blue represents the spirit, or the spiritual aspect of each one of us. And red, or pink, as Reverend Marcia and Reverend Lloyd call it. Oh, no, not that pink, this pink. This pink. Now this pink represents our embodiment in the physical realm of our senses. This includes our physical body as well as the body of our affairs, our relationships, our jobs, the experiences of our lives. Violet is a mixture of blue and red or pink, and violet represents the mystical marriage between heaven and earth. Reverend Marcia and Reverend Lloyd say that it contains both, yet it is greater than both of them. Such is the nature of love. So violet then represents love. Yellow represents the higher mental faculties of our mind, which are exposed to both the visible world of our senses and the invisible world of spirit, the higher faculties of our minds. Green is a mixture of yellow and blue, and it represents our intuition. Our intuition is that which is within us, that is the essence and the presence of the wisdom of God. And God speaks with us through our intuition, or that still small voice within us. Orange is the color that is a mixture of yellow and red or pink, and it represents the combination of our mind and our body. And orange reveals that the way our mind is connected to our body is through our emotions. Through our emotions. That's how our mind is connected to our body. So orange represents our emotions. And lastly, gray. Gray represents the mixture of white, which is wholeness, and black, which is the mystery. This combination represents our awareness, which is at times obstructed or partially or mostly obscured from our view. Right? Obscured from our view, but still there. Still there. It signifies the hidden or subconscious aspect of our being. Now, Reverend Marcia and Reverend Lloyd say every human soul is making the same eternal journey from the darkness of our primal nature to the light that abides in the heart of God. Now, what we believe here is that we arrived on this planet as this white light, as the white light in the image and likeness of God, but that very soon thereafter we began to become, as Miguel Ruiz would call it, domesticated. That we began to forget who and whose we are, and that white light, the spark of the divine that is within us, began to become obscured from our view. So for me, this eternal journey that we are on is one of remembering who we are. One of returning back home. One of returning back to the light. Reverend Marcia and Reverend Lloyd say that the way we make our way from the hidden nature of our subconscious being into the light that abides in the heart of God is by treading the path to everywhere. They call it treading the path to everywhere. And for me, again, this is returning to the light, returning to the love that we are at our very core. For me, it's awakening to and stepping into our spiritual magnificence. Now, I know that you all really love the practical side of all of this. So, let's explore this journey, this path to everywhere as described by Reverend Marcia and Reverend Lloyd. And I think that it can shed some light on where each of us is on that path, where we're going, and how to get there. Sound good? All right. So, while we initially began this journey as the light, our journey back to the light, back to our spiritual magnificence, begins with us walking in the darkness. The darkness of our subconscious nature. We tend to live our lives in a habitual manner based on the things that we were taught, or the patterns that we inherited from our ancestors or our parents, our family, our friends, or our teachers as we were growing up. We tend to live lives created out of the ignorance of our past experiences and the stories that we've told ourselves about those experiences. And this doesn't allow us to live in the fullness of God, the space of unlimited possibility. So we talk here all the time about becoming aware of our subconscious nature, what is hidden beneath and back of that is having its way with us, right? So the next step on our journey is a walk in the flesh. Here we tend to live according to what our physical senses can tell us. So consequently, we are only moved by what we hear, see, feel, touch, or taste. And there's so much more. So this is a very limited view of view of reality. That's reality with a capital R, a view that each person sees through their own particular lens. A lens that might not always be the truth. Living from this view does not allow us to live from our spiritual magnificence, from a context of the depth and breadth of who we are. Once we awaken to our sentient nature, we obey our feelings as well as our senses. Reverend Marcia and Reverend Lloyd say that the most powerful of these emotions is fear, which is the mechanism of our survival instinct, right? That fight or flight. At this point, our fears can become both a help or a hindrance to us on this path. On one hand, our fears protect us from harm. But on the other hand, they limit our expression and our exploration of the fullness of life. Can you see that? When we walk in fear as the context of our life, not that there aren't moments that fear is a totally appropriate emotion to have, but when we walk in fear as the context, the underlying context of our life, then we tend to live as an animal would from instinct or survival alone. And you could see how limited that would be. As we awaken to our higher mental faculties, instinct is replaced by intellect. And we begin to walk in the world of knowledge. Reverend Marcia and Reverend Lloyd say this is one of the most treacherous realms on our journey. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Treacherous realms on our journey simply because our intellect is capable of rationalizing almost everything we do. Consequently, without strong moral guidance, it is easy to fall into many patterns of self-indulgent behavior that ultimately become self-defeating in terms of making progress on our journey. So again, it's just moving forward. It's an evolutionary process to move from fear into intellect. And now the next step on our journey, we turn our minds towards the inner, the higher knowledge or truth. And our intuition opens up, and we begin to walk in faith. In faith. As a direct intuition of truth, our faith becomes an inner beacon to guide us on our journey. And even more remarkable, as we move from fear into faith, we find that faith can do what we can't do. We begin to have the faith of God, not faith in God, in something outside of ourselves, but the faith of God. Can you hear the difference? Knowing that as spiritual beings having a human incarnation, we are connected to all that there is. And that we live in a universe that is always ready, willing, and able to support us when we allow it to work through us. Faith. To walk in faith. When we walk in spirit, We are walking in the light of spiritual understanding, which is the wisdom of God. The wisdom of God. And at this point in our journey, we really begin to fully comprehend and believe in the unity and oneness of all of life. To walk in spirit is to reveal the divinity that is within us for all the world to see. At this point on our journey, all selfishness falls away, and we begin to live our lives in order to serve God and to serve each other. This is walking in spirit. As we near the end of our journey, we begin to walk in perfect love, which is our full, total, full, complete awareness of our oneness with all of life. This form of unconditional love is our highest state of being. It is known as agape love in the West and as ananda in the East. It is knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that each one of us is the presence of God itself, that each one of us is a unique and divine manifestation of God, that the wholeness of God is right where we are, each of us. That we see that light in each other and love as God loves, wholly and unconditionally. This is walking in love. And once we complete our journey into the light that abides in the heart of God, we are no longer walking in the light, we are the light. We are the light. Not just through me anymore, but as me. You recognize no duality, no separation. This exalted state of being is a possibility that exists for each one of us. Whether you can even fathom it or imagine it right now in this moment, it exists for all of us. It is possible. This is more than simply awakening to our spiritual magnificence. It is actually being our spiritual magnificence on the planet right now in everything that we say and do. Whew. Can you imagine? Can you just imagine? It is being our highest self, unabashedly, just being it. What a journey this is, this evolution through this spectrum of light. A journey back to ourselves, to the truth of who we are. A journey that we can all make, and in fact, will all make at some point in time or another. And what I love about this community, about this center, is that we are here together on this journey. And even though it is at its core a solitary journey, we can support each other. We can and do, yes, support each other. The bottom line is that every one of us is an individualized expression of God. With each other and in our unified awareness, we share our experience of the divine. It is personal, but we can share our experience. Who we are, what we say and do in the context of this spiritual journey serves to inspire and to motivate and to encourage every other person that we meet to step into their highest potential, to reflect back to the world that which is within them. As participants in this spiritual journey, we have opportunities to become increasingly aware of the power and presence that indwells us and that unites us, and that we can begin to live and act from that awareness. Now today, the ceremony that we are about to do is an opportunity to love and act from that awareness in a very powerful way. choosing to commit to membership in this spiritual community, we unify ourselves with the love, the vision, and the higher purpose of God and of the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. In choosing to be a member, we make a commitment to our spiritual path and to sharing it with others. In choosing to be a member, we consciously recognize our oneness with each other and intentionally make ourselves vital to the whole, consciously and intentionally. All right, so I just invite us to turn within. So in this feeling tone of joy and love, surrounded by all that is being given by each and every single one of these new members, and all that is given by all of the members and all of the visitors and all of the friends and all of the family that come through our doors, I am acutely aware of the presence of God, the one Spirit, the one mind, the one love, the one heart, the one creative energy back of everything that there is. I know that this Spirit, this power, created me out of itself, out of love. I know that it guides and guards and fuels and funds and supports me in everything that I do. And just as I know that this is my truth, I know that it is absolutely true for each and every person here today, and for all of those at home within the sound of my voice, that each of us is a unique and divine expression of God, a hologram containing the wholeness, the allness, the fullness of God. That each of us is individualized but not separate, different manifestations but part of a beautiful whole. And so in this moment, because of my understanding of this unity, of this oneness, I can say beyond any shadow of a doubt that truly this way of living, this way of standing in our spiritual magnificence is a possibility for each of us. And I claim by the power of my voice that we do so with ease and with grace. That our faith guides us, that our intuition informs us, that our wisdom provides the answers. And so we move forward through this evolution, down this spiritual path, on this journey back to the wholeness, the truth of who we are, back to our spiritual magnificence, fully armed, fully orbed, fully ready to do it. And what a joy that it is to be doing it with each other. To be part of this spiritual community, recognizing that light of God within each other and encouraging its expression. Loving wholly and unconditionally. I'm so grateful for this truth, so grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes, that they are clothed in form even as they are spoken, and so I speak them, and I release them, letting go and letting God be God, and I invite each of us to anchor them for ourselves and for each other by saying, and so it is. Amen. Amen.